is the latest hoop in my Inspired by Imagery series, and this one is inspired by another album. This is inspired by this album, Dance Fever by Florence and the Machine. This is an alternate cover that there were elements that I immediately saw it and thought, how can I incorporate that into an embroidery piece? So let me show you how I did it. So here is my finished piece. Lots of shine, lots of shimmer. I'll talk about each of these elements after we check out the hoop guts. So you'll notice on the back of here, you might not notice it right away, but this is the color of the base fabric. It was an apparel fabric that I picked up at Joann. And then on top of this, I layered another apparel fabric. It was very lightweight, like a tulle fabric. And you can see it's like a brownish gold color. So I loved the color of this. It reminded me of the hair in this image and also the lace from along here. I wanted to kind of like combine both of those. So that's why I used two different fabrics to make up what you see on the front. So you can see the background fabric through that and then the tulle layered over it. It kind of tones down the color of the fabric that I used on this. You can see it's much more vivid over here. Hoop guts, little bits going on, lots of thread. You can tell there was lots of added work because there's not tons of embroidery on this piece. So let's check out the front again. So the first few things that I took from the album cover, again, the hair color and this lacy feel, I wanted to add that in here, which I did with the two different layered fabrics. Then my next focal point was the flower. This is a real large pale pink flower. It looks very crepe papery, like a very lightweight flower for being so big. I wanted to also add a large flower to this piece, which is kind of the focal point of this. And so I began with these lightweight leaf shapes that actually came from this large flower. Oops, little beads tucked in there. So this is just a large flower that I picked up at Michael's. I think it was from their succulent collection. I bought it for decor, but it didn't work, so I kind of have just kept it lying around. And I looked at the petals and thought they're the perfect color for what I wanted to do. So I began by just cutting petal shapes that I then embellished with stitches and beadwork. In between, or actually layered underneath and on top, these are scraps of leather that I picked up at a handbag factory shop. You could fill a big bag with leather scraps, which I did, and I love tucking them into projects whenever I get the chance. These were a little trickier to embroider because each hole had to be poked with an awl first before I could get a needle through it. These were very easy to bead because it's very lightweight. It's kind of like a colored foam that I was working with for that. And then in the center, I had lots of large beads that I added. Moving along to the beaded fringe at the bottom, I did not bead all of this. This is a scrap that was given to me in a bag of scraps. I get given things a lot, little odds and ends that I love to tuck into projects. This definitely felt like it went along with a lot of the like fringed, not exactly fringe, but beaded details on here. And the color gold was just perfect for this. So I attached this and then layered on top of it another lace that I had. And then on top of that, I layered beads. Other little lace details that I added throughout here, just to bring in some of the white and cream colors. This is a brooch from, it was just a jewelry, I think it was a Tim Holtz embellishment that I added. And then along here, I added little flowers. So along the headpiece here, there were tiny purple flowers that I really liked. And I wanted to bring in some of that darker purple color. So these are just petals that I cut from a wool felt that I've had in my stash. and I just started creating little flowers, and then I couched on a vine that went throughout. So I wanted that to kind of go throughout the whole hoop. With that, I also added these really, really cool leather buttons. These were buttons that I picked up at an antique store years ago. I was rummaging through a bin and pulled a handful of these out, and I bought like a big handful for like $2, which that number always sticks in my head because it was such a good deal. Really, really cool buttons. And I've held onto them for just the right project. And this definitely was just the right project. The green mirrored the green throughout the vines, and then the browns just went with the whole vibe of this hoop. So I hope you enjoy this latest from my Inspired by Imagery series. If you look up the hashtag on Instagram, I have lots of other projects that have all been inspired by books and pictures and music. So check that out. And if you take on a project like this sometime in the future, happy stitching!